Yesterday, White House senior advisor Jared Kushner was talking up how much this administration has done for the black community and claimed that you can't blame his father-in-law for not putting in the effort. Take a look.
One thing we've seen in a lot of the black community, which is mostly Democrat, is that President Trump's policies are the policies that can help people break out of the problems that they're complaining about, but he can't want them to be successful more than they want to be successful. And what you're seeing throughout the country now is a groundswell of support in the black community because they're realizing that all the different bad things that the media and the Democrats have said about President Trump are not true.
Boy, am I getting tired of hearing this crap from people who don't know anything about what's going on, but let me not be a bonehead. I guess I'm supposed to ask this question: how are black voters going to react to that statement, Sonny? Being the black woman on the panel, I'm going to ask you.
Well, you know, I think the fact that Jared Kushner is trafficking in racial tropes that have been used by people for such a long time and claiming that black people aren't successful because they're lazy isn't going to bode well for the Republican Party so close to an election when you have, I think the stats at this point are black eligible voters now make up 12.5% of the U.S. electorate, up from 11.5%, right? And that a Pew Research survey found that 63% of black registered voters are extremely motivated to vote. The other thing is, you know, you look at the messenger, you have someone like Jared Kushner who is only in the White House because his father-in-law placed him there. He is woefully unqualified to be there, and he, you know, got into Harvard because his father paid $2.5 million to get him there. So someone who has made it only because people have paid for his position and appointed him to positions really has no business talking about success in any way, shape, or form. And I'm just really surprised that he would do so. Well, I shouldn't be surprised, right, that he would say something like that, because I think it's probably emblematic of what the White House thinks about black Americans and thinks about the constituents, their black constituents. It's very telling what he said on Fox.
Right. What was your reaction to hearing, I'm sorry, what was your reaction to hearing this, Sarah, when you heard it? Did it, were you surprised?
Well, it was detached, extremely tone deaf. I don't think the black community has been a focus of this administration, and I you know, conveniently find that we're talking about it right now in the throes of an election. So there's a lot of rattling off of points about historically black colleges, also the opportunities. They had some talking points, and I think he would have been better just sticking to those because off script doesn't work well for him clearly, or his father-in-law. But I think the thing that jumped out at me was language reveals your thought patterns. And when he says complaining about, he's speaking to how they view what the black community has spoken up about. And there are extremely valid points that you can't really argue with. To say complaining sounds like they're throwing something at a whiny toddler. And so to me, I found that the most off-putting moment of what he was saying. And I don't think this helped. If they were going for more votes with the black community, this was not the way to get them.
Yeah. What about you, Barry? When you heard him sort of laying all of these things out, you know, prosecuting the Klan and making lynching a national hate crime, which they could have done, as you know, a couple of years ago, but they didn't because they didn't want to be bothered. But when you heard all of this, do you think he, what do you think he was saying?
Well, sometimes it feels like this administration wants to lose the election. And watching a moment like that, you're kind of thinking, like, is this their closing argument? I mean, it's baffling to me. Like everyone said, I mean, it was utterly tone deaf, but is that a surprise? Not a surprise. I do think, you know, Charlemagne the God had a really interesting interview a few days ago. I think he's super interesting on CNN. And he talked about how, you know, Trump is successfully courting not older black voters who are reliably Democrat, but younger black voters. And there was a recent poll that found that black voters between the ages of 18 and 44 their support for Trump has jumped from 10% in the last election to 21% in this one. Now, look, it's still a very low number, but I thought that was quite interesting, to say nothing of, Jared Kushner's utter tone deafness,
Right,
which
right.
3.5 years in, we shouldn't be surprised by.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
think
here's the
Trump has
thing I would have
21%
liked
of
to
black
have heard.
voters. I'd like to see that poll.
Well,
I'd like to see that poll. Who are those
listen,
21% of
he,
black
he
people?
he may, but here's what he doesn't, here's what is wrong for me. If you want people to stop bitching about stuff, then do something about it. You want people to stop saying, hey, stop shooting us, then stop shooting us. You want to understand what's going on in the black community? Ask the white folks that are marching with all these Black Lives Matter kids, because they're saying, we get it, why don't you? It's a whole thing, So when you talk about what you're going to do for the black community, don't tell me you're going to pass this law or that law, because you had an opportunity to do that. What I want you to do is I want you to address the issues. If you address the issues, then I'll have some faith. When you do this, this is like a fart in a dust storm. It's gone.